Welcome, guys, to the episode 10 of Another Dumb Day. With us today, we have Mr. York Underwood.
Woo! Nice.
The audience goes wild.
We have a soundboard.
Okay, you guys recorded my show.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, buddy.
Yeah.
Nice to have you.
Yeah, this is great. I've been watching you guys since the beginning. I'm a big fan of the sketches, actually.
Yeah, we haven't done a sketch in a while.
I know.
We were going to do more,
Yeah.
and the plan is to do more.
Have you guys seen Guðmundur Eyjólf's sketches?
Yeah, he's so funny.
He's the best.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, he supposedly was talking about getting it on, starting a Icelandic sketch TV show.
Yeah.
But, the way it works is that he just had to talk and go back and forth, and he's unknown, and he's not part of a group, and he didn't go to art school. He's a computer programmer. And because of he's just I don't know.
Didn't he? He's an actor. Like he studied acting.
No.
I thought he went to film school.
No, he didn't go to anything. He's a computer programmer, and he's just the most dramatic person in Iceland.
Yeah.
I'm going to start this show off with the story of Guðmundur Eyjól.
Yeah, please
everyone
do.
needs to know it.
Please do.
So when I first moved to Iceland and I was working at the Grapevine, I met him through Jon Ben, who does stand up at the Secret Cellar.
Yeah,
and he was like, hey, it's like 3:30 in the afternoon. He's like, hey, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm at work. He's like, you want to come have a beer? And I'm like, yeah, I can get off early. Like, why not? It's journalism. So it's basically part of your job is being drunk. And so I walk over to Cafe Baron, and he's wearing like a suede leather jacket, or like a deerskin jacket with tassels. Okay? And so we go in, and then we just start drinking really a lot for a three, it opened a half an hour ago. It opens at 3 p.m. and there's no one in the bar except for me, and we're sitting at the bar, and this poor girl is just like, why is this happening today? It was like a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And so and then we're just and we're so fast because I get really excited and he's getting really excited. We just met each other, and so it's kind of uncomfortable still too. So we're drinking in order to become better friends really quickly. And so we're getting really just drunk in 20 minutes or something. But then by 5, the after work crowd comes in, and there's the regular table in Cafe Baron, or there used to be before COVID, where it's just people who've been going there since they were 20.
Right.
And now they're 50, and they've gone through 4 divorces, and they've married half the staff there.
But they're in the book.
They're in the book. Yeah. The
Cafe
Barflies
Baron
book. Yeah, I'm in there too.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah, they were going to have my sayings in there, but they just have photos, and I'm not really represented well by photos.
No, you're a word guy.
I'm a word guy, and so they took out one thing, and I was like, damn it. No, just And so we're there. It's 5 o'clock. The regulars have come in, and now it's starting to be Cafe Baron cafe style. It gets into a nightclubby, not even nightclub, just a crazy, weird place at night. But this is peak pub time, and now everyone's drinking, and we've been drinking quite a bit. I think it was a ridiculous tab for 5 p.m.
Right.
And so we're there, and then a little person, because I'm not going to use derogatory words.
No, little person is good. We know what you're talking about.
Yeah, if you were on stage, you can pop out a word because you test the audience, and they go, "What the hell?" And you're like, "Hey, I'm just doing comedy." But if you're doing a podcast, this is permanent, and people think this is how I really feel. So I have to be politically correct. So as a little person, not have to be, I am, and.
Okay.
A little person comes in wearing the exact same jacket.
No way.
And furious, but not with us. Just a furious small, and he's obviously a tourist. He's not. So he's not an Icelandic guy.
So he just walks in angry over something else.
Over something else,
not the jacket.
I think he got kicked out of Bravo or something. It's because of his he was being inappropriate with people or saying something.
How do you know he was angry?
Because he came in it just.
You can feel a little person being angry.
Yeah, it's little stature, big emotions.
Yeah.
It was he filled the room with his anger at the moment he walked in.
Okay.
And I was like, holy. But then he was and then he threatened people in the bar and said he was I'm going to fight anyone here.
Oh.
And everyone's like, okay. And then the bartender was like, okay, we'll talk to I think Goodney was still the manager then. She's like, yeah, Goodney's going to be in a bit. We'll get rid of this guy. Don't worry. We don't have bouncers yet. It's 5 p.m.
Right.
This is a ridiculous situation. But he's like, blah, blah. He's like this. And then Gummi just switches to the most Icelandic accent. No, I will not have this. And he goes, I will fight you. And I was like, oh my God. And he's like, yeah. He's like, no. And the guy's pointing at him, and they're pointing at each other, but they never address the fact that they're in the exact same outfit. That's never addressed for a moment. So then I'm like, okay. And then he's like, okay. And he's like, but we can't fight in here. In Iceland, we don't fight but we would fight in the street.
Right, yeah. You go outside.
So they walk outside, and now they're in front of Cafe Baron, and it's a hill.
Yeah.
Right? And the guy's like, okay. And like, they're like circling each other, and then people come out. Like people come out of the bar, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is just out of control now. But then like the little guy runs up to me, and he's like, I just want to be sure that if I start winning the fight, you're not just gonna kick me when I'm on top of your friend. I don't want you guys to be like unfair. And I'm drunk, so I'm not like I'm not really cheerful when the guy's threatening to fight my friend.
Right.
Even if he's like, I'm giving him equal footing. And I was like, hey, I can't promise anything. If you start hurting my friend, I might beat the shit out of you too. Right. Like you don't know what's going to happen. This is you're doing a bar fight. It's up to you. Deal with the repercussions. And so I start to get worried that this guy actually might have something because Gumi is like he's like pretty drunk and he wasn't in that good a shape at the time. Yeah. Like he looked. Okay. I'm like, what happens if this guy is like actually like serious?
But he was at least twice as tall.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
so you there's no reason to be afraid.
There's no reason, but because of like, I think he just sold this confidence.
Oh, okay.
He sold it that I started to be like, why would he like? I'm even bigger than Gumi. Why is he coming over and like starting stuff with me? I'm like, okay, this is like maybe he's gonna just like what, like jump on him and, like
like Yoda.
Yeah, and there's like blood starts squirting. I'm just expecting like the worst, and then he just runs at Gumi, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then like for a second, I'm like, this is maybe he's just gonna, and then of course not because physics and like life and stuff. and Gumi doesn't like kick him or anything, which would have been like ridiculous. Like,
you don't kick him.
You would have had to go to a hospital or something.
Yeah.
So he doesn't hit him or anything, but he grabs him, and then he's just carrying him around and like throwing him around the street, and the guy's like, and he's like,
in the same jacket the whole time.
And then like, I think it was like a friend of mine that was visiting. Yeah, a friend of mine who was visiting comes around the corner because they're supposed to meet me at Cafe Baron because I was at work and they were out doing like, tourist stuff. Like they were going to see the Golden Circle and stuff. I'm like, I'm meeting a friend after work, so just meet me at Cafe Baron. And I already showed him where it was and stuff. And then they come around the corner and they just look up the hill, and there's me like, yeah, and then my friend's like, oh, and they're like, this is what you do in Iceland? And I was like, yeah. It's been great living here. And that's just the type of guy Gumi is. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was a good story the whole time.
Yeah, it was a good
He makes great sketches.
Yeah, he makes great sketches. He is like, but he is just like an embodiment of a person who, like, when we talk to each other, like I get worried because the stuff we say to each other, if there's ever the great leak.
Right, you guys fuck around like you.
Yeah, we send like
you get silly.
It's uncensored.
Uncensored awfulness we send to each other.
Like I wasn't like he's a larger than life character, and like when I met him for the first time, I wasn't sure whether he was in like a character.
Yeah.
I thought I was being goofed.
Yeah.
So it was a relief seeing that he does those weird sketches. But like, oh, this is the kind of guy that because I didn't know where to play.
But that's 4 years later.
Yeah.
Like he's been this character his whole life, and now people are like, oh, okay, he does sketches.
This is what he does.
No, he does this in real life.
Yeah,
to real people. All the time,
dude.
Like when you go downtown, that's just who he is.
I never know if he's being real or not.
I don't know what this like is real. Just being so nervous about the world that you don't let your subconscious take over every situation. Yeah. I don't know. He
came into the green room once when I think I was the only one who knew him. There were a few other people there, and he just started talking about wood. Mm-hmm. He was like, "Oh, oak." And it wasn't oak. And like started like checking if it was good material, and like everybody else was like, "What the fuck? This guy is on M right now." But he was just like touching every wood and saying what kind of wood it was, and like he had no idea. He knew 2 woods. Yeah, was just walking around the room, and then he left like saying like, "I gotta go. I have a half of Dan Carlin's podcast I have to listen to." And then he leaves. And I'm laughing my ass off, but everybody else is like kind of like, who is this guy? And then I started showing them the sketches, like, no, this is who he is.
Yeah.
It's just a weirdo.
Yeah. I thought, like, I didn't know he was your friend or your own Ben's friend. Yeah. I think I met him, like, it was after closing at the Secret Cellar, and we were like kind of hanging out, and he showed up, and I thought he was a rando from the streets who was either like balls deep in acid or broke his brain a few years back on balls amount of acid.
He has that vibe too.
Yeah, but he's very smart.
Yeah.
He's
I mean, you have to be this kind of to make this good these quality sketches.
Yeah.
Have to be kind of out there.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. He's the best.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah. Congratulations on the baby, York.
Yeah.
Little girl Underwood.
Little girl Underwood.
Yeah. How's it going?
Well, fine. It's good. It's I don't know. There's nothing I can really.
She's a week old now?
Yeah, just over a week old.
Yeah.
Like a week and 4 days.
Yeah.
Something
They don't do a lot.
They don't do a lot, but it is different than you think. Like I didn't know I didn't know how I would feel or anything. I thought I'd be like, oh, okay, this is a baby. And I have 2 stepsons at home, so I was like, yeah, I get it. Like kids are like momentarily like endearing and then most of the time annoying. But
it's different when it's your blood though.
Yeah, there is that. That's weird. And like but it's strange because I'm not like back in Canada. So whenever like someone comes like someone of like Gudrun's friends or family, they're like, "Oh, she looks just like York." I'm like, "What are you saying? She looks foreign?" Trying to impress my child. She just got here. She's just as Icelandic as anyone else. Yeah. So like I can't be like, "Oh yeah, she does look like me," because I've got like defense immigrant mode on. Yeah. So I understand movies all of a sudden. I used to think that was just like a thing that like immigrants had, like were like that, but I'm just like that. Yeah. I feel like I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm not really from here.
Right. So is she going to be York's daughter or is she going to be Underwood?
The last 2 names, like, because it's 2 names, it's Gudrun daughter Underwood.
Yeah. Oh. Okay.
Yeah. So we decided on that.
Yeah.
Because York's daughter doesn't make sense because I'm not Icelandic, and York's daughter, I don't know.
Yeah. And Underwood is a last name.
And Underwood is the last name. It's a nice last name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, I wanted to have my last name, and then I want to be connected to Gudrun as well, and like the Icelandic side, and then we have the 2 names. But the naming party isn't until the 5th of September.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's streamed.
Yes. No. Yeah. It's streamed.
Streamed live on the Secret Cellar.
Yeah. No. It's we're having like a Zoom naming party because like everyone in Canada is going crazy because they don't have naming parties. Like my sister had announced the name of her daughter that she just had a few months ago, like months before it was born.
Yeah.
Really? And people do that there?
We talked about it on the last podcast. Mauricio doesn't understand why Icelanders do this.
Yeah.
Is this an only Icelander thing to keep the name secret?
No, because it's like I guess you can't, like, keeping the name secret is kind of festive. I'm not sure if it's popular other places, but it is like it's a Lutheran thing. It's tied to
Lutheran
because you have a christening. So when you're finally given your name and then you're entered into like the church and everything.
Yeah,
right.
So you have to get baptized. So in case you die between then and your confirmation, you still get to heaven.
Yeah.
And then you get your name gets christened or whatever is the christening, and you have like a dress and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Because we're putting her in like the same christening dress that Gudrun wore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My daughter wasn't in the same one as her.
You were.
Grandmother, I think.
Yeah, so I think it's fine. Also, like, if you can imagine the harsh conditions in Iceland, like, you didn't know if the child was going to last.
Yeah.
A couple months. Cause
or like if you were going to, like, it was going to last through the pregnancy even.
Yeah. I think naming before the birth is silly. Like, my sister did it, and I'm not trying to just come down on her, but I think there is a thing about, like, it's kind of fun that you get to, and I like this because everyone in Canada is like, what's her name? And I'm like, you find out that here this time, and we're gonna have a party with it.
Yeah,
that's more fun.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and then also it puts a little bit more pressure on you because I think you can make stupid name decisions if it's just willy-nilly.
Yeah.
But now that you have to have a party and be like, this is what all my hard work amounted to, and then they're like, oh, nice name. What do you just come with that out of the top of your head or something? Yeah, so you gotta really like plan it out, and I like that. But yeah, having a kid has been it's just crazy. I think.
Yeah.
It's super emotional, which is weird. Like even if you don't want to be. Like, I'm just like, hey, how's it going? And I don't like baby talk because, like...
Wait, this, hey, how's it going? Was that you greeting your baby?
Hello, morning.
Good morning, child.
Underwood.
No, like, I talked to her, like, I started reading to her from the, like, first night, or second night, so August 3rd. Just because I wanted to hear, like, voices and stuff like that, and it's good. Because you could just sit there and just stare at her and smile and, like, hug her and give her milk and stuff, and you'd be like, ooh. But I wanted to, like... be hearing things, and so I've been reading books to her, and I don't baby talk because my sister kind of like had baby talk voice for like 10 years. And it like grated on me so much that like even when like kids do it and like parents go like, oh, I'm like, how can we stand people?
Do you don't even like higher your voice.
Yeah, maybe like I lower, like I'll be like, "Hey, how's it going, baby?"
A little bit softer.
A little bit softer.
So do you use the baby's name at home?
Only when the kids aren't home.
Yeah, because they don't know.
They don't know.
Oh.
That's a slippery slope, though.
Oh man,
I said my daughter's name all the time in front of everybody, accidentally.
Yeah, I told that like one time, like before the baby was born, I told one of the ideas. It wasn't the right idea actually, so I'm lucky, to the cashier at 10-11.
What?
Yeah. He's like, how's it going? I'm like, oh, pretty good. My wife's almost going to give birth in a few days. And he's like, oh, what's the baby's name? And I was like, oh, we're thinking blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, whoa, I cannot do that. And she was with me and she's like, okay, you just can't keep a secret? I'm like, yeah, it's my buddy. She's like, the cashier at 10-11's your buddy. What's his name? Pavel. I'm just messing. But yeah, I had the second day I had to go out and get groceries and stuff to eat. And so I was listening to but I didn't want to talk to anyone, and then we're worried about COVID, so I haven't been able to really show her to anyone, and I can't really go out. This is the first time I've been out to see anyone since the birth, because we wanted to be really careful, and like you guys are pretty careful, and this is like the library, so I'm not going anywhere too crazy. But we'd walk. I walk, and I've got the mask on, sunglasses on, headphones on, and I'm just going to buy groceries. But I'm listening to an audiobook called Freedom by Sebastian Junger, and it's like a short book. He's like a journalist who covered the Afghanistan war, and he also wrote a book called Tribe about how like societies that are very like socially cohesive, how that feels good. It explains like why Americans come to Iceland and after a couple of days they're like, I'm moving here, because they can feel that everyone kind of knows each other, and there's this thing that feels good about being here because it's so close knit.
Yeah,
but then they get here.
And then they get here, they're like, you're never going to get into the knitting, exactly. Foreigner. We have a language and names that keep you at bay. No, but it is a good feeling. Like Iceland has that, like even as an immigrant, it's nice because it is like this is one of the safest countries in the world.
Yeah,
it's not like moving somewhere where they're like, people just are like, you're not invited. Hey, can I come? No, sorry. But I was listening to this, and so this book Freedom is about how we judge like the difference between collective responsibility and individual freedom to make the best balance. Because freedom always and it's really important now when we're talking about wearing masks and COVID and stuff. Like, how much do you sacrifice so that you have the collective responsibility, but you still have your individual freedom? And then it goes through the history of it and like the different like native tribes in the United States and how they were more equal, and then how they got less equal the more wealth inequality went up. Anyways, I'm listening to this book. And then it starts talking about the Europeans who were tired of living under monarchies and being super taxed and just living in filth. Like in Edinburgh, it was called Old Reekie because it stunk so much that you could smell Edinburgh before you could see it when you were walking to it.
Jesus. The city.
You had open sewers. You had people that were sick. You couldn't drink the water, so you had to drink. Like in the 1800s, the average person drank a pint of gin a day. Because you couldn't drink water because you'd get sick. So like they've never done this in movies, which they should. Like I'd like to see a movie set in like the 1800s in a lower income area where how it really was. It wasn't people like, oh, welcome to 1800 England or something. It's people like,
it was gross.
And they're just like, they're making like 2 blocks before they fall on the ground, and someone stabs them and takes their money. Yeah. The movie would just be horrifying.
Yeah.
And that's how it should be, because then we'd be like, hey, like soap and technology has done a lot for us.
Yeah.
It's not just fancy dresses.
Yeah. Oh.
But I'm listening to this, and these Europeans, these families, they moved to the States, and then they walked across the United States, mostly, to get to where they could be free. And they had to go right to the edge of this river in Pennsylvania, where on the other side was still called, like, Indian country, which would be, like, indigenous country. And you had a chance of being killed, murdered. Like, the Indians were getting their land taken over, so they would come and just murder your family and, chop you up and all this sort of stuff and try and send a message, like, don't come onto our land. But that was still better than living in these awful conditions in Europe. And so these families would walk, and they had to walk. Pregnant women would get to go on these low wagons, and the kids would have to go, like, ride on the wagon and then walk. And they'd walk for months, like a year, to get to this homestead where it might not work out.
Yeah,
like a lot of time the guys would go ahead of time, and they'd have seeds of corn. They'd get there, like, okay, it's spring. They put all the seeds in, and then if it worked out and they didn't die, they'd send for their family to come and then say, like, bring other families too, because it's better to have a community. It's more likely you'll survive. And so I'm listening to this about people doing all this for their family, and I just start crying, like tearing up. I'm not crying.
In the grocery store?
In the grocery store. But I don't want anyone to see me, so I go and stand in front of the vegetables where it's like where it's kind of cool, like where it has the cool air. And I'm just staring at like the tomatoes and zucchinis. And people keep coming up and like looking at me, and I'm like, no. And then just out of like automatic response, I just start putting zucchinis into like one of those like vegetable bags, because we don't use plastic bags anymore. Yeah. So I start scooping these zucchinis in, and then I buy like a few other things and milk and stuff, and I just leave, and I get home and I'm like, oh Jesus, I'm so emotional, like a audiobook about personal freedom. It's like oh God, I have so much responsibility. Like I'm just like breaking down, and then I get home and I've got all these fucking zucchinis, and then I'm like, I look up a recipe, and then of course no one in the house likes it, so I'm getting angry that no one will eat my cry zucchinis. And so for every meal, I'm like, hey, should we have this, and maybe some, I don't know, sauteed zucchini, and they're like, we fucking hate zucchini. I'm like, we have to eat them. I bought too many. They're my cry zucchinis. And so so I still have one zucchini left. I had eggplant this morning because I've been getting rid of all the ridiculous vegetables I bought.
So you think that's a direct result of you having a kid?
Yeah. Direct result of having a kid is like
high
emotion, impulse vegetable buying. Like I was just like, oh God, we need more vegetables. We're not healthy enough.
Yeah. There couldn't be a worse place for like impulse vegetable buying than Iceland.
Yeah, because they're not good.
No, and they're mostly mold.
They're just awful. But like the tomatoes, like even though the tomatoes aren't that good here because they're grown in hothouses, so you don't get like the red juiciness that you get from sun-grown tomatoes. I don't know if you know this. A lot of that's what people complain about in the away from home living in Iceland group. A lot of people are like, have you guys tried the tomatoes? It's like,
wait, so tomatoes are bad here?
Tomatoes are good. Like I eat them because they're fresh here, which is I would choose.
But they have no taste.
Yeah, they're less tasty. So but I would choose less taste and fresh to more taste and possibly botulism.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm always balancing these two. It's kind of like freedom and collective responsibility. I'm just trying to find that happy middle of I'm not going to get food poisoning. I'll live with this.
Because I've also always felt like I would like tomatoes, but I just don't, because they don't taste like anything.
Yeah.
But that's just the Icelandic tomatoes then.
Yeah.
They're watery.
I've started to like them. I think when we went to Portugal, like he came and visited me in Portugal, that's when I started to really like tomatoes, because I had gazpacho all the time. Mm-hmm. Cold tomato soup with a whole bunch of, it's like just a bunch of it's paprika, peppers, like red peppers, sweet peppers. It can be green, yellow, red, whatever. Cucumber, tomatoes, onion, and then cilantro or something like that. And it's just blended in a blender, and then with ice cubes and like breadcrumbs. And you feel so good because it's just a big vitamin shot and no calories. Okay, so
it's pretty much just a smoothie.
It's just a smoothie, and then it's and then you don't feel heavy. So if it was really hot, like sometimes it's like plus 40, you'd be like, okay, I feel like I got some energy, but I'm not like dying. And if you have a really nice olive oil, it's nice. So I still make that. I have like gazpacho all the time here to pretend that I live somewhere that has sun, anything like that. But
sun-grown vegetables.
One of the things that I found, because because you're bringing up kids. This is what I brought this book because the big fear that I have now, that I've been having since she was born, is movies and TV shows and phones. Because my stepsons, if we don't say anything, they will not do anything and just be on their phone all day.
Right.
And they don't even know what they're like. The younger one doesn't even know what's happening.
Right.
Like if I ask him, like, hey, what's that video about? He's just like, "Ma, ma." And because he can't understand everything that's going on, he just takes from the images stuff he knows and implants that. And so he'll say, if you get him to watch something, the story he tells you of what he watched and what actually he watched never match.
How so?
Because it'll be like, oh yeah, and Pennywise was there. I'm like, Pennywise is from It. There's no way Pennywise was in this video. And then he'll just take everything he's heard from flashes on YouTube and he just makes them into stories in his own head. So he's never really following a narrative at all.
So you want to limit screen time with your daughter?
I thought I was going to be a good stepdad and be like, hey, family movie night, and it's torture.
Why?
It's about the longest we make it is 17 minutes, I think, from what I've been recording. Yeah. And
it's the TikTok.
17 minutes, and they're like, why do we have to watch this? I'm like, why do we have to watch Last Action Hero? I don't know, because it's an awesome fucking movie. It's written by Shane Black. Do you guys have any appreciation for screenwriting? But no, they can't like anything longer than a couple of minutes, and they start to be like, Can I play? Can I go? Can I leave?
The short attention span. Like if you go on TikTok, it's just made for children.
Yeah, and they also, because they like they said, and this has been repeated a million times, so maybe I sound like a worry wart. It's like Las Vegas, the people in Las Vegas who program the slot machines were hired by Silicon Valley to make these apps. Yeah. So they know, like, never send people regular messages. Always send it at off-center times so that it induces this randomness that makes you feel like you're gambling. So you'll be like playing, and then it'll stop, and it won't send you every 15 minutes. It'll be like all of a sudden it'll wait for like 2 hours, and then ding, and then you'll be like, oh yeah, I have to go back on my phone.
All right. Yeah.
And then the screen, like if you watch, have you seen, I don't know, Sonic the Hedgehog or any of these movies? Yeah. They're made in like Pixar, like, so it's no longer hand animation. Yeah. It's done with computers, and the scenes are cut so short to make you high. Like if you listen to any like Upwards or Soul, or I think it's called Soul. Yeah, Soul, the new Pixar movies.
Oh, yeah.
You don't just put them onto a different language. Put them onto a language you don't understand, like, you know, French or something. You know the stories sound exactly the same tonally. It's always like, and then you can hear when it's going to like, okay, now it's when the goofy character is being clumsy with something. All these sounds are the same because it's just they're setting up structures to get the kids to react, and the kids don't have to follow a story or know what's going on. And then you just, you know, the kids are happy, and then the parents go like, oh, I remember that. And so it's got this nostalgia, but it's not good, I don't think, for brains because it doesn't require them to follow along.
It require you to digest the information.
But hasn't that always been the problem though?
No, like if you're trying to try getting a kid to watch Pinocchio, or like what's a good example, Alice in Wonderland or Snow White, and then compare it to one of the new Pixar movies, they die watching Snow White. Yeah, like the old Disney movies will take moments where it'll be just 3 minutes where the character is looking out on a river because it's nice to look out on a river.
It is really slow. I put on Bambi. Yeah, like the intro is 17 minutes of just like, and then the credits like fade so slow. I'm like, oh, it's awesome. It's awesome to look at it, but it's way different.
Yeah, and I think that's important for kids. And also, everything is so like you can't like movies because it's either like made for China and families, which are considered the same thing now. That's why like we have Marvel movies and stuff, and then you have independent movies which are made for angry people, basically. But there's no like middle ground, mid-budget adult movies like we used to have in the 1990s and 2000s.
Yeah, when did that stop, do you think?
They think like, you know, just after the 1990s it started to peter out and they started going more towards big budget summer releases. Yeah. But it's slowly, like if you did, I don't know, you guys saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Yeah. That's like the last time a movie was made for adults. Yeah. I think, and was like really high budget and really well made.
And a lot of people didn't like it.
But I didn't like it as much as I liked it the second time. And now I appreciate it because I cannot stand movies that I'm watching. Right. But also the stories that they make for kids are so like when my 8-year-old stepson puts on Roof Kids, and then it's like wah, 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 and everything's like they're all like, oh, you're, and then he does this, like he knows like if I act like a baby, everyone will call me cute and stuff. I don't, because I don't find, like, I like him when he's like funny and like when he's himself, and there's not this like being a baby performative thing that we try and get children to do. So that's what I was leading up to.
Okay. What is this book you have?
Okay, one thing I've been doing, which is crazy because the child is literally a little over a week old, is I've been making a library for her so that there's books I can read for her, because she needs to have ones in Icelandic and English because she's bilingual, or will be, or hopefully.
Yeah, of course, he's Icelandic, so like she'll be bilingual.
She'll bilingual
pretty fast.
And then so you have like these stories, but I don't want to buy like these like, oh, this like this kind of soft, not fun, where you pretend your kid is different than you are, because even though there is some innocence protected and you don't say everything and you're not like a jerk, they're you. Like I know me, I wasn't just like, oh, I'd really like to hear about, you know, red balloons and butterflies. I was a little bit of like a sinister kid who liked bad stuff. Yeah. And so I wanted to I'm like, okay, I'm going to get a library for her together of stories I can read her. And I want them to be not easy either, because the other thing that happened in the last 20 years compared to like in the 50s and 60s and 70s is they've written children's books for children to read them. They didn't write children's books for children to hear them or to remember them. So now it's like John ran to the store. Those are reader books. They can do that in school. But the books you want them to enjoy are supposed to be kind of fun, and maybe they can't read them right away, but they've heard their parents say it over and over again. So I'm not buying any book where it's meant for her to read unless she can just really read them. And I'm trying to buy ones that rhyme so that she can remember it. So she's heard it so many times that maybe and I want them to be also scary in a way, or like kind of like exciting. So it's different than you expect. So this is a famous one, and I couldn't find it anywhere, so I had to order it online. And it's called Cautionary. It's 2 books, actually. This is Cautionary Tales and Bad Child's Book of Beasts. And it's by Hilaire Belloc. He's a French writer who naturalized into England when he was in the, I forget, 60s, 50s, maybe earlier. He moved, and he became just an English language writer. He switched over completely and was a literary critic and stuff like that. But he wrote these children's books that are kind of like in the 50s, 60s, and 70s were really big deal, but they're part of the books that they don't buy kids because they're too dark or something for kids. So I bought her this because the first 2 books I bought were Alice in Wonderland and Aesop's Fables. And Aesop's Fables are just tiny little stories where they teach you little lessons because, I realize that there's no such thing as a blank slate like they argue about. Like kids do come with some ingrained ideas and senses of fairness that are not just blank. But in case she's blank, I'm reading her books that teach her like right and wrong. But in a way, it's like don't like people that smile still might be a villain. That's like one of the morals of the stories. Or it'll be like, if you don't give away so much stuff that you have nothing, and like all these little lessons, and they'd have these little stories, and then like there's one where a fox tricks a raven to drop the food because it talks about how pretty it is, and once it's like, you're such a pretty bird, I want you to sing, and then it sings and it drops the food and the fox eats it, and it's like, oh, what, you stole my food? And it's like, flattery, don't trust flattery.
And that's all in this book?
That's in Aesop's Fables. So that's like the base. That's the first book I read her day 1. Okay.
How much of that do you think she digested?
I have a picture. She stared at me a lot. The one thing that's interesting is that she gets really calm when I read. So a lot of times, like when I read to her, that's when I can read her to sleep or whatever. Or if she's
did you talk a lot to the belly?
Yeah. Because
they say that has an effect.
Okay.
Like if she
I
hears
just don't know
her
what to
father's
say.
voice. No, you can read books maybe, or just talk about anything.
Yeah,
you can. She doesn't understand. Just she hears.
Well,
her
not
voice.
according to him.
Yeah,
She does.
She doesn't understand exactly.
No, but it's
they can hear the sound,
voice, and the thing.
But I think like the best thing is that because like during pregnancy, women are like pretty crazy. Yeah. I don't think this is controversial.
No. I think we all agree.
Yeah.
I think it's fairly documented fact.
Yeah, it is like, and like if you're like me, where sometimes you're like get like obsessed over being right about one thing, and then you realize you just can't do this. No. Like it's not right. Like I would get into these arguments with her where we like with Gudrun, where I would fight and then be like, why am I? She's like 8 months pregnant. Why do I have to win this fight?
I have to allow her to win.
So I was like, I just have to calm down. But then that also helped because I was so difficult, and we would just get so mad at each other that we wouldn't talk to each other. We'd have to talk through the baby before she was even born. We were already using her
as a
shield in our dysfunction. So I'd be like, oh, your mom's just doing that because she doesn't like fucking zucchinis. Huh? Well, I'll show her once you're born, I'm buying all the zucchinis. Who doesn't like zucchini? Just fry them up, a little lemon, a little Parmesan, and they're delicious. She says they taste bitter. I'll tell you what tastes bitter. It's fucking marriage. That's the type of stuff I'd say to my child before she was born.
Yeah.
But once she's born, you got to put the masks on. And be like, hey, you were born into a happy family. She's like, hey, I heard some things on the way in here. Are you sure?
It is a big relief when the baby comes. You don't have to worry about the other person now. It changes the whole dynamic of the relationship.
Yeah.
Especially after 9 months of this.
Yeah. I'm going to put this down for because that is interesting. The pregnancy, birth thing.
Yeah.
I got dressed up, which is funny.
For the birth?
For the birth?
Yeah, I noticed in the pictures.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I just dressed nicely like I was going to an event.
You can see the pictures, not a wrinkle in your shirt.
Yeah.
Oh,
did you iron it?
Look sharp.
No. It was a new shirt. Because it happened to be the big, summer Utsala at all the men's clothing stores right before the birth. So I was able to stock up 50 to 70% off. Right. Yeah. So I got a new kind of textured dress shirt from Stenstrom. It's a Swedish brand. They're really nice.
Okay.
It's still a poly cotton blend. It's not pure cotton or anything, but
okay.
But I like it. Anyways,
did you remove your shirt when she was born and hold her to your naked chest?
Skin to skin? Yeah, I did eventually. Yeah. But I wanted to be in better shape for that photo, so I never took the photo of me with her and me bare-chested, because I've seen lots of those like on people's houses, like at after parties. Someone like, like guys who've had divorces and now they're trying to like still be a dad but also still be young, and they're caught in this limbo, and then you end up at their house and they've got all these pictures of their kids and they're like, "Yeah, welcome to my house. You guys want to party?" And you're like, "Don't you got fucking better shit to do? I can see like 4 reasons on the wall. Well, maybe you shouldn't be letting street people into your house to do drugs." Call me crazy, but that seems like a bad idea. No, I'm just, the one thing about me you guys should know right off the bat is I'm a really good father. I don't know how many times I've heard that at after parties, but it's fucking incredible.
And then the day after it's Monday, and they're calling their child's mom, telling them why they can't pick them up at kindergarten.
Yeah, I'll be late.
Sorry,
I'll be 4 hours late.
No, I'm just really swamped with school and work. It's like, you're not in school anymore. Oh, I'm taking some classes. I'm taking classes, damn it. I'm going to do this for my daughter. That is the one thing that I'm like most, like that is not one thing. I've said that's now 4 times or something, but that's one of the things that I've always thought about is I don't like the selfish performative nature of fatherhood as an identity.
Right.
So like there is like, obviously with a mother, there is a real performative and real thing. Like they feed them from their breast and stuff. But like when you're not sure of where your role is as a dad, you can easily start making it about yourself because the baby can't say anything. So it's just there. It's like a prop in your new self identity where you're like, yeah, I'm just dad now. If I did something like that, like if I just was up all night inviting people to my house, having a party, and then telling people how excellent of a dad I am, I would wake up and beat the shit out of myself. Because it's like, no, like if you make a decision, you have to own it. Hey, I'm being a really irresponsible father right now because obviously if I have a child, I shouldn't be behaving like this. Yeah. If someone said that to me at a party, I'd be like, man, fuck, have another drink. I understand. You're just making a bad choice. Don't fucking spend 2 hours telling me how this is actually part of your fucking plan to be a good dad. This is you being a bad dad. And if you're going to change it, I agree with you, change it. But I won't bug you right now because you're too drunk to do anything anyways. So let's just move on from it. But I hate this thing with being a dad that you start becoming just a compulsive narcissist about everything you do. Like, yeah, you don't know what it's like being a dad. It's like, man, you're just late for work. Tell me you missed the fucking bus. Don't say it's because you're dad of the year. I don't need this dad story all the time. Because if you look at it, dads are like a really important thing and a really awful thing. You do both things in a kid's life. Every guy I know who's good at something has a father issue.
Right.
Like if you're like, even they don't even have to be that good. I don't even have to like how good they are. I mean, like, but if you notice a guy who just got a little bit of hunger in their eyes for something, I'm usually like, yeah, he's got a bad dad. Yeah. That's always there. But then if you don't, but then also there's the other end of the scale where they don't have, like, their father was too soft or too less of a disruptive.
Yeah, is that a bad thing?
I think so, because you see like guys who don't understand why everyone doesn't love them all the time. And like this cuteness thing, which I don't like. Like, cuteness is for your mom, not for strangers. Mm-hmm. Don't act cute in front of me. I don't own you. I don't care. I want you to actually entertain me.
You're still talking about your stepkids, aren't you?
I'm not talking about stepkids.
Okay.
My stepkids don't do that at all. My stepkids have we're on par with each other now. Okay. Yeah, we got each other. We're good. Right. But I mean, like, I'm talking about just comedians that we work with. You can tell the difference between people who feel like they should be loved for just no reason and people who are like, this is all I have.
Yeah, I have to earn this love.
I have to earn this. Yeah. It's tough.
Like I have my entire life.
Yeah. Like, I gotta fucking every inch of this.
And then when you get it, you feel like you don't deserve it.
Yeah,
that's how you're brought up.
These people are idiots.
I shouldn't feel this good. I should wreck everything. I should just drink and destroy my life. It's like, what? No, you did really well tonight. No. The only way to
people don't know what they're talking about.
Fucking entertaining these loser drunks. What? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, but there is, like, I don't know. That's like that's always a thing because you see it. I don't know. Being a dad is that kind of weird. I think, like, being like when they say like single moms are trouble or something, or it can cause. I don't think it is. I think single moms are so good that it's harmful. Like they're so good, like to the point where they clean everything up and like because there's no one there to make things slightly worse, the kids do worse. And like your job as a dad is to be like, no. Things are not going to go this easy. I'm going to make things a little more fucking complicated. Like, it's like kids who wake up and then their parents just like dress them, do everything, feed them, make them a wonderful lunch, write I love you on the lunchbox, blah, 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 blah. Those kids turn 18 and then just fall apart because they're like, why doesn't the world do this for me anymore? Yeah. Mm-hmm. A dad is supposed to be there so that
once in a while you forget your lunch.
Yeah, and then you're angry at your wife because you're like, hey, we haven't had sex in 3 days, but you have time to get up and make fucking lunches for those pieces of shit. And then she's like, fine, I won't make them lunch. Hey, make your own lunch today. And they're like, why do I have to make my own lunch? I thought you loved me. And then like they start realizing they're not the only thing in the world, and then they just get a little bit like, okay, I gotta take care of myself. But if you just have a single mom, which is Iceland to a T, it explains a lot of Icelandic male behavior. Is just they had someone who loved them so much that they can't understand why everyone else just doesn't feel the same.
It's a little Norman Bates.
It is, and I've seen it with guys here who just don't get that people don't do things for them.
Yeah.
Hey, can you go and get that for me? No. What are you talking about? What? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm used to people doing everything for me. Yeah, it's a little bit strange. I was gonna I'm trying to think of a good example here of a person I could just single out.
We know.
Just say the name. We can believe it.
No. I can't. I'm just like there is. Yeah, I don't know. Oh yeah, here's a good example. That kid who was on the quiz show. Who was on Ghetto Buster, and then like smashed
Ghetto
everything. Ghetto Buster. Yeah, Ghetto Buster. Sorry.
What kid?
Ghetto Buster.
Ghetto Buster.
Oh, that guy that freaked out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No one needs to protect him except for his mom. And his dad will be like, hey, you freaked out. It's okay. Society doesn't have we had radio hosts and just boys, you gotta, that happens. That doesn't happen. That's never allowed.
That's so true. I looked at the comment section. Everybody was like, good for him.
Yeah.
Like showing emotion. Good for him. Like, no, he fucked up.
Yeah. You're just like, if you do that, in a stranger's house, you're supposed to be like, hey, sorry, you don't get public time anymore.
Leave
you're
the
going
party,
back with your parents until your parents learn how to fucking raise you. we let you out of the house and this is what you do.
Yeah.
But there is that is one of the things that's different about living in Iceland compared to Canada is that I don't know my neighbors in Canada even though I know them. My neighbors are Polish, German, Jamaican, all over the place. So politeness and manners is how you navigate because we're not all the same culture and we're not all the same family.
Right.
Whereas here, kids will just run up and ask me for money. And I get that it's nice that they feel so comfortable, but boundaries is something that teaches manners. And so when you wonder why, drunk 20-year-old guys are acting so stupid and then getting beat up by American soldiers is because they don't understand boundaries.
Yeah.
They go what? I've just been able to do whatever I wanted my whole life. My country, my neighborhood is all mine. Everything's mine. And there's no respect for these sorts of things. Not that I'm a huge respect fan. I like people to be rude, but I want them to be rude on purpose.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen someone just thinking they're doing great? We've seen this obviously at the Secret Cellar. People who think they're just doing everything right, but they're just being horrendously rude to everybody. Mm-hmm. And then they don't get it. That I can't take. But if someone came in and was actively trying to be rude to everybody, I'd be like, yeah, that's fucking awesome.
This guy's being himself.
That's funny. But you have to get the repercussions. That's all I'm saying. Is if you're rude, you got to pay the price. People are not going to want to talk to you. They're going to say shit about you. They're going to pick on you. You're supposed to get a little pushback. And that's an example of what I mean being a good father is. To tie this all together is that you're supposed to make it so that there's little gaps in the net. So they're acting a certain way, and then all of a sudden they realize, wow, I can fall and hit the ground, and you're like, that's right, you could. Watch it.
Oh.
Your mom's gonna have that net, but I'm gonna keep fucking ripping holes in it. And you're gonna fall through one of these holes if you don't watch your fucking mouth. And that's
that's being a father.
It seems aggressive because that has nothing to do with how you feel about the person or how your relationship is or the things you do together. I'm not talking about kindness because that has to be there. Being raised by someone who's unkind is just an unimaginable horror that you could put on a kid, and you wouldn't want that. All I'm saying is that it's about the best example I can give is what we talked about when you called me after my wife gave birth is just that helplessness feeling. So, and you felt this, but I didn't feel this, and it's weird because I felt it afterwards because I'm not like a robot. I didn't go well, whatever. It's a super intense situation. And what I found crazy is that I calmed down completely, which is normal. Intense situations, people either freak out or calm down. You get some sort of reaction. And I calmed down completely, but mentally, it wasn't like I thought something was wrong, and I didn't feel helpless, even though like she was screaming and it was like she's in a whole bunch of pain. And a few weeks before that, when she had like I forget what was being done, like taking blood or something, which I never squirm at and never have. I just like when they went to take blood from her to do a test of my wife, I was just like I felt so like protective, and like it made me like almost teary because they were touching her. And I was like, why am I like this? You know, like, it's just taking blood. Even though I understand that it's nice that I'm like this, I still was thinking like, this is weird to have this like uncontrollable emotional response. And then in the pregnancy or in the birth, when she was giving birth, it became this thing where I calmed down and I kind of looked and I started to get this like real, I guess that was what it would be called, familial pride, like pride in my family. So it was like, it was less about me worrying about her more than like watching someone compete, like watching your son compete in a boxing match. Of course, you don't want him to get beaten, but part of you is like, that's my son. He's going to do something good. He's going to,
right.
Or like a daughter in BJJ. I'm just assuming that she wouldn't go into boxing because she's got these legs like my daughter does. So why would she waste her time doing upper body when she could use the whole thing? So, but I'm just saying like it's more of like I had more of this like pride in her like doing it. And so when they were like, okay, can you go onto your back for us? And she was like, no. I'm like, of course you can. And that sounds like I sounded like I was just being like, yes, of course you can, rather than being like, oh no, she's in a lot of pain, maybe we can't do this.
Right.
I felt like, no, she can do this. And I felt this immense pride in her ability to do what she was doing. And I felt completely distanced from the doctors, and I didn't seek them as help or a source of authority. I wasn't like, please help us, doctor. I never got that, which happens. Like I've had that happen like when someone's been hurt. And you take someone and they're hurt and you're like, doctor, help. So I feel helpless. I can't do anything. But in this case, I didn't feel this. It was just this immense pride in she can do this. People in my family can do these things and achieve these things. And this will happen. Right. And afterwards, because, you know, the baby came out, she had the cord like lightly wrapped, it wasn't wrapped around, but it was lightly wrapped and she's a little blue. And the head shape is like weird and then goes to normal because she's like coming through and it's like squeezing, then expanding.
They look gross.
And like, but I remember like now when I look on it, it kind of like gives me like a shock.
Yeah.
When I remember when she came out and like the cord and the color and everything. But at the time, I was just like, yeah. I'm like, yeah. And then she started moving. I'm like, yeah, of course she can do this. That's great. And that's all I was thinking is, yeah, next, yeah, you got this. And then when Gudrun started carrying it, like holding her, I was like, yeah, okay, that's it. We did it. And it wasn't for like till the next day. I would say like until the crying zucchinis. That I really like, holy shit, I just witnessed something that was like super traumatic and over the top with like pain and screaming and stress. But it took a day because even when we were sitting in the hospital room, like when they move you down and you wait, when we were sitting there, I was just kind of like, yeah, I'm like, can we go home? And she's like, I'm a little tired.
But do you think that's just like your like subconscious kind of going into survival mode and just like focusing in, zeroing in, adrenaline, stuff like that?
That's what.
And then it kicks in the day after when you like the shock recedes.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think it was. But from a philosophical point of view, because being with a kid for the last week and not talking to anyone, everything becomes like you just think about everything you've done. Every time I hold her, I'm just like, oh God, I have so much goddamn responsibility.
It is a lot.
It
is a lot.
Jesus. Like I remember when like my biggest responsibility was just hiding the bad things I did from people who care about me. That was like my peak responsibility. I just don't let everyone know you're drunk and you've done good today. Right? What did I do? Yeah, I just did some work. You know, I went to the gym. Yeah, I'm fine. Oh yeah, you look fine. Thanks. Can you leave now? Held together. Made it past inspection. But yeah, then you have a lot. Not that, I guess, but that's like
you kept going to the gym, but you never got in shape. It was so crazy.
I lost 20 kilograms. That was crazy. That's 40 pounds. Okay, so just to like lighten the mood, because I went into this deep thing about watching a child being born. This is the book. This is one of the books I'm chosen. I have like I said, Alice in Wonderland, Aesop's Fables, Roald Dahl, anything he does, because he does kind of dark stuff. The guy who did like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, James and the Giant Peach, things like that. But this is like this is what I like about these stories, because they tell you, it's funny that they did this without any research. So, and that's something that's happened in history where humans do something and it turns out to be completely right, and it was just from feeling. Like the train, like when we built trains for the first time, that was done just by putting it together. No one understood thermodynamics for like, 50 more years? Like the equations for thermodynamics weren't understood for like 50 more years after the train was already invented. But this thing, they know with kids, if you tell people the whole story first and then tell them the story, they enjoy it better. Like eventually as you get older, you want more of you can have the like strength to go through the mystery of figuring something out. But most people enjoy you going, this is going to happen. And then you tell a story and they're like, oh, that did happen. And then they feel like they like accomplished something. So so these stories are great. So the first story is Jim, who ran away from his nurse and was eaten by a lion. And the moral of the story is that when you're out in public in crowds, you don't run away from your parents. Otherwise you could be eaten by a lion. And then awesome. Then Henry King, who chewed bits of string and was early cut off in dreadful agonies. So he died from eating stuff that wasn't food. So that's like small objects. Yeah, small objects and string. Matilda, who told lies and was burned to death.
What? Wait.
Franklin Hyde, who caroused in the dirt and was corrected by his uncle. That just sounds weird. Godolphin Horn, who was cursed with the sin of pride and became a bootblack.
What does that mean?
I don't know
what the hell? Can you read that for us? How long are the stories?
The stories are short. I could read.
Read the one about
Bootblack.
Bootblack. But shouldn't we read Burned to Death? Because I'm kind of excited.
I want to hear all of them, but do the Bootblack.
Do Bootblack? Okay, what page is Bootblack on? 29. Okay.
What was that title?
So it's Godolphin Horn, who was cursed with the sin of pride and became a bootblack. I don't know what a bootblack is, but I'll learn this.
Bootblack is what is a bootblack again?
I have no idea. Is it like shoe shine?
Yeah, it must be something like that.
Yeah, I think it's...
So it'll end up being like a shoe shiner or something.
It's like a cobbler.
But this is another interesting thing. This is why books are better. So you're supposed to be able to intuit the meaning of words by the context within the writing. But if you're on your phone, or like we're used to, everything we have, we can just go, hey, what is that? And then look it up.
Yeah.
And that ruins the act of writing. And that's also why younger people write so shitty, because they write as if you are going to look everything up.
Yeah.
Rather than writing in a way that you don't even need to know the word to get what you mean.
Yeah.
And then you learn the word through reading it. Like, so a lot of the words you never went to a dictionary and said this. You learn them through context. But if people decontextualize it so that the pages, between the pages, is all you need to know to understand the text. If that gets changed, then the way we learn how to read and write will change. And kids will take a longer time to learn how to read. Like, it's a style of writing that could affect people. I think it's a big problem, if you think about it. And I'm worried about this because I have a kid now, but I was always worried about how stupid people were. That's kind of like
But now you have a dog in the fight.
Now I got a dog in the fight.
Yeah.
And like when you go to like schools and teachers talk about like, oh yeah, everyone's doing really great. And they'll say something like, they're so happy and stuff. And it's like, I'm like, of course they're happy. They've got a good home and they're fucking playing all the time.
Do you know if they do this in sports in Iceland with participation trophies? If everybody gets first place? They do?
They do that, and I don't even think they do sports, really.
Yeah.
They just go like, okay, what do you guys want to do? And they're like, oh, I'm sad. And they're like, well, why don't you have a little lay down and we'll give you a medal for it. I think, because there is no competition thing, and that's something that's, I think, is hard because it should be there, but shouldn't be ridiculous.
But like, I mean, well, I know there's competitions. Like these kids are doing like there's like these youngster soccer competitions where they're actually competing for a title and
so that's true. But then those are like, it seems to be like certain families are football families.
Yeah.
And the kids who are not very good, or maybe they don't have the support from their family that they needed. Like when a kid shows up and he can run and dribble the ball and he's got shin pads, shoes, and a jersey and his favorite player on the back already, he's going to do fine. But the kid who comes, who's supposed to be in the same class or the same grade, who doesn't have a parent who does this, this situation should be set up so that it's for everyone to be expected to get to a certain level, rather than just kind of like, okay, those kids go to the side and the football kids, they go through. That's always been a huge problem, and that's a problem in Canada too with hockey and stuff. But that's something I can't stand, because physical activity is a really important thing that can fuck you up. Like I think I should do a lot more now, but when you're a kid, the stuff you can do for kids, if you can just find something for them to do, is just awesome. But if you get turned off it because your family's not like that or whatever, I think the school's failing. I think they're not hard enough on teachers, because the math scores for the first, like, Iceland has the lowest math scores for boys in Europe, and it's the only country where boys score lower than girls, which makes sense because eventually girls will just score higher than everybody because men drop out of university more.
But I can also tell you, like my mom's has been a teacher for like almost 40 years, something.
Yeah.
That 30 years. 40 years. I don't know.
She might be one of the good ones.
She might have been, but I can tell you like that teachers are just like also very neutered. Like they're not given the tools, and parents are so involved in the school life. Yeah. Like, teachers aren't allowed to discipline or educate. And I'm not saying like beat their fingers or whatever, but they aren't allowed to kind of like push the kids. Because then the parents will come in like, you're trying to make him do something he doesn't want to do, like math. Like
if you say like, hey, you didn't finish your math, so you don't get to go to the swimming pool today with the class, and everyone who didn't finish has to stay back.
Yeah,
that would fucking never fly, because they'd be like, did you just make them outsiders for not finishing the task they were supposed to finish? It's like, wait, that sentence makes perfect sense to me. That's exactly how life works. And then they're like, no, they still get to do everything, they just don't have to do anything. It's like, okay, well then, good luck.
So do you think it's like there was like this big thing not too long ago where there was this award ceremony after like this, I don't know, 10th grade or whatever.
Yeah.
And so like it used to be that like maybe 2 kids in the entire class would get awards for like excellent performance or whatever. That's how it used to be, right?
Yeah.
And then everyone else didn't get an award.
Yeah.
Now it was this whole thing because like let's say there was 60 kids or something, like 57 were called up for being like for achieving something, or like, and then there was 3 kids who were like left who never came up to the stage.
That's why it should be like 4 kids.
Yeah.
And what's wrong with that? I think like, isn't that like a tough thing, because it's not permanent. There's this like you can do better.
Yeah.
Like that's like
so do you think it's good that everyone went up except for those 3-4 kids?
No,
No,
I think it should be 2 kids.
Yeah,
I think anything else than that is just bullshit.
Because like those awards should have some merit.
Yeah, math, language, history, gym, drama. And be like, hey, we got 5 kids. They were the best at it. Good luck next year. But I'm not the best at it. That's right. The guy on the stage is the best at it. Oh, okay.
Do better.
I'm gonna do better, because that's like, like unless you have like a family that's going to just teach you everything. The school system can't work unless there's some level of motivation to do better. I think. But okay, we're gonna read it. But just because I try and do sports with my stepson.
I thought you were going to say daughter.
13-year-old. Yeah, weak throwing arm.
Jesus, it's a week old, York. Lay off.
I've already gotten this.
She has no center of gravity.
Given this speech already. By like, okay, you're reading to her again. I'm like, yeah, we have to finish this book. She keeps falling asleep. Hey, wake up! I'm reading to you. No, but it's like he's turning 13 here in the fall, and he just, because of the way the school is, everybody would be like this. They play video games, and then he's not in a sports thing. So when I try and get him to come, like we went frisbee golfing, and you can pick anything. We could say like we went, to pick flowers or something, and it would be the first 25 minutes would be an absolute fucking nightmare. Yeah. And that's just how it works, because we go frisbee golfing. And then the guy who's there, his name's Boyi. He sells the frisbee golfs out of a van. He's the national Icelandic frisbee golf champion. He's in Europe right now at the European Nationals for frisbee golf.
That's pretty cool.
His name's Boyi Borgason, something like that. I have him on Facebook. Anyways, he's there, and he's like, hey, York, blah, 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 because he used to write for the Grapevine and Bed, and him and I had gone out drinking and stuff back in my old days. Yeah. And he just he's shows us, and he's awesome, and I don't know how to play frisbee golf, and I'm not any good. But then my stepson throws, and it's not a world champion frisbee golf throw, but it's it's a frisbee throw, and it's fine. And he's like, fuck this shit, I suck at this, fuck. And I'm like, this is literally the champion of the country. Of course you're not going to do as good as him. And he's like, oh fuck, I hate this. And then for 9 holes, it was just nightmare. And then gets to the end, he's like, oh, I'm never doing this again. But then he doesn't remember himself acting like this, because he's in some sort of a manic stage. And afterwards he's like, so when are we going frisbee golf again? I'm like, yeah, tomorrow. But part of me is like, I wish I never went again. We go and play basketball, and he's like, oh, I can't shoot like you or stuff. And I'm like, yeah, you're fucking 12.
Yeah.
He just immediately thinks he's going to be the best.
Yeah, because
should be.
That's what it's like when you play video games. It's like, hey, you want to play basketball? Sure. Okay, now you're, I don't know.
LeBron.
Now you're LeBron James.
Yeah, right. No.
And you get the learning curve is going from being able to beat the computer to being able to beat your friend who's been playing it for a year. Yeah. And that's it. It's never learning that your body isn't physically capable of doing these things. we're going to get to the story.
Yes, boot black.
Boot black. Wait, because this is an important point.
Okay.
This is an important point that we're talking about. Right. I think, and this is just to throw it out there because it's a weird idea, because I've been in my head a lot for a week.
I can tell.
There's so like the major revolution in the 20th century was like this like communist thing where they no longer wanted like these like someone else, these corporations to own the means of production. And that's something you hear about all the time. And then you hear about socialism and you want more people to be able to spread it out. But you also want a little bit of competition. You want something like Sweden and Iceland where you have capitalism and socialism together and all this sort of stuff. And these are great things. And everyone talks about it, even though almost no one I know understands anything about economics. So they're just repeating shit they heard like on the radio or, you know, what they read. So they'll just be like, yeah, means of production. And they say stuff like this. But I've never heard someone like sit down and write down what they mean and be like, yeah, I'm talking about when you have this many things. Like no one can do it because most people can't do math or economics. But we talk about it. The thing that's interesting about this idea is that this fight happened about controlling things. And this has happened again in our lives and we don't even realize it, is that the means of production, like in our business, which is like what you're doing right now, creating a podcast and doing stand-up or doing any sort of music, that's been stolen from us, even though it's been democratized. Like anyone can make a podcast, but the means of production is completely controlled by people on the top in these ways. Like before, if you knew how to play a violin, you could play a violin, but and people were amazed by it. But everyone's seen someone play a violin now, so no one cares. Like if you watch a person play a violin, which takes so much work and effort, you're never like, holy shit, that's amazing. You're like, oh, you can play the violin.
Yeah, it's cool, not impressive.
We've seen so many images. It's kind of like when the spaceship, when they first went to the moon, it was like only like 3 or 4, maybe 5, maybe 6, I don't know. There are not that many missions before they quit putting it on TV because no one was interested. And this is like people flying to the moon, and everyone's like, "Well, whatever. We saw it before in movies." And it's because like images before they ever went to the moon of people on the moon made it so when they went to the moon, they're like, "Yeah, we've seen this before." And so when you live in a world where everything's already presented to you, like kids getting video games and watching images, and they don't have to create anything. There's no like, you don't have to speak even. Like you can use other people's voices together to make something. Everything is already there, and you don't own the means of production for your own engagement with the world. Then you're all of a sudden you're completely controlled. Like if you can't move your body and play sports with your friends without comparing yourself to images of sports that you've seen before, or learn music without comparing yourself to the music you listen to on your iPod, like we don't realize how crazy it is that there's music all the time. Like before, when people like listened to Beethoven in the symphony, like when they went there to listen to his opera, people wept because in normal life there was just
never music.
Yeah.
And I experienced that. Like I've gone completely numb to music.
Yeah.
Like I don't listen. I don't put on music myself.
No, but you hear it all day.
All day.
All day. It's around everywhere.
Yeah. And so, but this
it bores me actually.
Yeah.
Like if anything at this point.
No,
you talk about the same thing about the churches, like Catholic churches.
Yeah.
People used to walk around in dirt and then walk into this beautiful place.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course you believed in God.
Yeah, because that's what art was. Art was this thing that just like, it took everything about reality and made it into something that you had an effect on you.
Yeah.
Like you could take a piece of wood and then show it to a person a few days later after working on it, and they would be like, that's beautiful. That's amazing. Yeah. And so but that step, being able, like that drive to do that, to make beauty in the world and to care about it and to do the steps necessary is being stolen from us. Because the more that children don't have the drive to make things themselves. Like, it's one thing to see LeBron James and be like, I want to be LeBron James, which is kind of how we grew up. There was this aspirational generation where you put posters of your heroes, and it was a heroic time.
Yeah, and you could maybe catch them once a week on TV if you stayed up late or whatever.
But now we're in non-heroic times where literally morons are more popular than the best basketball player or the best best musicians. Like, there are no rock bands anymore because people talk like it's. I guess it's non-heroic. It's just people on videos talking about themselves to the point where people aren't interested in this thing that makes life worth, or life at least beautiful, which is this striving towards something. Like, I don't know when it happened, but it used to be images made us aspire to be closer to those ideals, and ideals were something that you were like, I want to do that. Like, I remember skateboarding. Comedy is a big example. Like, I watched comedians, I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
But now I don't think there's going to be a generation of comedians because one, there is this thing where you can't say stuff and everyone's more worried about like that, which is whatever. Who cares about this stuff? And then the second thing is that it's no longer aspirational to see something. If you're seeing something, it's like it's already you because everything, like no one is differentiated online. If you're all connected, that's stand-up. I don't need to physically do stand-up in the world. I've seen stand-up.
Yeah.
So there's this break that's happened with kids and with everyone, even with us, because obviously the music, like everything turns off. We get numb to it. It no longer is something that we go, if you go and sit in a church, like you said, and then you leave it and you go like, oh, I want to see that beauty again around me. And so I'm going to paint something in my house so I can feel that feeling again. That's gone. It's literally so much around us that we don't have any aspirations for.
I agree with you to a point, but I think with the live shows, both with music and comedy, it's different. Because like with music, you hear it all the time, blah, 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 but then you go to a concert, and maybe it's not even a band that you like very much, but you're just sitting in the right spot, they play the right song, and you just look at them, and all of a sudden you're just caught up in the moment, and it's amazing, and you walk out like, wow, that was great. I didn't expect it to be, but that was amazing. Same thing with comedy. I mean, we see comedy all the time. It's the same comedian, so you pretty much used to it. Yeah. But then somebody pops in, that's amazing. Or you did a set in Kópavogur the last time I saw you.
Yeah.
You went to, like, everybody bombed.
The awful setup. I thought everything was going to suck.
Dude, everybody bombed there, and you were headlining, and you came on stage, and just like right away, you talked about like, isn't it weird to show up to spot in Kópavogur and you drove up here sober? Isn't that crazy? And like, he got them immediately just on the boat, and everybody bombed.
I read the crowd. I was like, this is the type of people who normally show up drunk, driving to a venue.
And then he was just like, the pace was fast, and like I was sitting in the back and looking at it as a comedian. I was like, wow, that's really I had a smile on my face the whole time.
Right.
I even sent you a message like, that was amazing. Yeah, so you get inspired once in a while, even though it's not the same as when you were a kid and you saw it on TV and it was great.
Yeah, but
I think with live shows it's different.
Would you go through everything you went through to get to where you are now? Like, I'm talking about when you started, you were single, you didn't have a child, and you were able to go through like failing, going back, being around drunk people in a bar, trying, and then eventually you get good. And now, like, you have a kid and stuff. You come, you perform, you go home. You're not gonna go and be crazy or be around these people.
I don't think I would do it again if I knew how hard it was, like how because you start so dumb. You're like, wow, I'm just gonna go there and I'm gonna get famous so fast, and then it doesn't happen. But you get like taste of it every once in a while, but you keep failing.
But everything in you, like the way you went to school, the way your parents were with you, that was all aided you to the point where you were able to get past that little threshold of this sucks, okay, I'm getting better, now I'm kind of good. Yeah. Now, if you take away that little energy to get past these thresholds, everyone's going to act like you're saying, like, if I knew it was this hard, I wouldn't have done it. That's how they're going to, like, that's how people are going to act. That's what I mean. Like, if you already, like, hey, I can already watch a video, and also, I'm not interested in stand-up because it's long-form, boring narrative where I could just have flashes of people running into each other and kicking each other in the balls or whatever.
Then again,
dressing up like bananas and being like, split, banana split. And then they're like, that's way better than, I don't even have to listen for that long, and I get the whole thing. Banana split, banana split. That's awesome.
So you think people are not going to be motivated in the future?
I think if you take away the Gutenberg brain that we all have, which is based on reading books, I think if you take that away, the changes to how we create art is going to be different. Because if everything is online already and you're just waiting for, and you just feel like everyone's the same, and you feel this kind of mushed out, like if you think about even gender identities and stuff like that, of course there's always been this, and everyone knows that even your own gender identity fluctuates on a spectrum compared to another person. And the idea of it always being this binary thing has always been silly, and we've laughed at it. Like guys who are like, oh, I'm a manly man. You always know when you see someone like that, like it's going to be like a month before there's news about him like sucking dick somewhere. like if you like anytime a fascist regime takes over a country, you're just like, okay, in 2 months, one of the leaders is going to be at an all gay orgy. And then it happened. Like Hungary had the fascist thing, and then it's like top leader in the Hungarian thing is sucking dick all night. And they're like, but they hate homosexuals. Well, it's because I love them. like we know that these binary behaviors mean there's something else. Everyone knows that about personalities and things like that. But then when you go online, even your identity, if it used to be like you had your internal stuff, and then you learned how to write, and then you noticed that your writing voice was different than your internal voice, and then you noticed the way you spoke to friends was different than your internal voice, and then you perform on stage, and that's even more different than everything, and then you're always trying to combine all these things together. Now imagine if your whole life was just performed in a space where you had no physical interaction, and there was no centering of you. Like sometimes you're alone, and you're just with yourself, and you're touching stuff, or you're eating things, and you just have to be yourself, and your interaction with other people is, it can be startling. It's like, oh, there's another person here, I can smell them, they could hit me. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes through your head. But if you're mostly like through a screen, you start to lose this ability, and it loses how you interact with the world. Why would you find things funny? Like if you listen to a lot of comedy, it's about the fact that we're this little like thing walking around in a meat bag that has to interact with stuff, and we're always dealing with these two things, being a physical body and being a mind. If you don't think about these things, if your body isn't a part of your life and your mind isn't a part of your life because it's mostly been fed to you through other means, then I don't think it's going to be the same. I think it'll change a lot, and I don't think it's not. And maybe it sounds worrisome or whatever, but it doesn't. Every technological advance doesn't mean it's going to be good, but there are going to be changes. Maybe I think, and this is my prediction, the big difference in economics in the world in our lifetime will be the difference between how children are treated with rich people and poor people. When you find out the richest people in the world aren't allowing their kids to have phones, and the poorest people in the world are basically using phones as a babysitter, that's going to build two different stratums of people.
Is this happening?
It's happening right now. It's happening. Like everyone who owns Facebook and Twitter and things like that, the guys who created it, who worked on it, they said they won't give their kids a phone until they're 14. If you told that to a lot of struggling parents here, they'd be like, no way, I have to be able to give them an iPad or I don't have a moment to myself. Yeah. And so like I think that'll be the big difference. People who can, because how are you going to give people the threshold? Like you went and learned stand-up, and that you did it on your own and through aspiration, and you took all the problems. Now imagine if you became a world-class gymnast or something at a young age. That's a level of that I don't have and that you don't have. No. But they had because of a whole bunch of different factors. Maybe it's privilege and things like that. But if kids don't have the best setup so they can even attempt these things, I don't think they'll happen. I think it will get... it'll be just, I think this will be the unheroic times. It'll be, there won't, no one want, it's not, don't talk about who's the best and who's the worst. Everyone's great, blah, blah, blah. Like my stepsons, even the young one, knows words like anxiety disorder in English because that's what I'm feeling so anxious right now. You might be feeling anxious, but the chances that every single child has an anxiety disorder is fairly slim. Yeah. But everyone's been told these words because they're listening to it, and this is what people talk about. No one goes like, if everyone listened to Muhammad Ali all day, it might be a problem too, because it's like, I'm the greatest. Like maybe that's not good either. But I'm saying there must be a balance between everyone just talking about how hard everything is.
Yeah, and all their syndromes. But it's or like even like starting shows all about their syndromes.
Yeah.
Like everything's about syndromes these days.
Yeah. But isn't there some kind of connection there with the phones and the screen time with the anxiety? Because I think...
Yeah, I think that you're right, but I think but I'm saying at a flat level, everyone has anxiety when they're a kid.
Yeah.
But when you get told you have something, so first of all, there is like when you say I have this, it's not the same thing as saying I have an apple. You're talking about a cluster of symptoms in your mind that they can hardly understand at the highest level of science, and now you're going to explain your entire personality based on a few words you learned.
Or even 4 letters.
Yeah, 4 letters. Yeah, like I've got ADHD. And it's like, what does that mean exactly? How do you know that you're like? Remember when you're a kid and they're like, maybe the color blue doesn't look the same as it looks to you. Yeah, and everyone would be like, yeah, okay, we don't know that. That's something we're supposed to realize. But then all of a sudden, people come up and talk about mental disorders, and they go like, "Yep, that's just ADHD." How could we possibly have a complete understanding of these things? We only know basic symptoms, and we try and help people. If you see like, hey, this kid tends towards like ADHD type syndromes. So what he needs or she needs is a little more exercise, and she tends to focus more. And then we help her. But telling her she has a disorder is basically just giving her an excuse to give up, which everyone has.
And to not attempt.
Yeah, to not attempt. And they do this for everyone. They give excuses. And parents do this too. Single moms do this. This is the thing I was talking about, is dads are there to make it a little less. So like when everyone's like, no, it's fine. Yeah, he's had enough. He can't do this. The dad's there to be like, no, he can finish it.
I didn't raise a pussy.
You don't want that. Like, of course, you can say that ironically because it's funny. Because if you say that in public, people just lose it. Right? Yeah. What? Quit being such a pussy. Everyone's like, whoa. It's like, actually, I should have said cunt. Because he was being a bit nasty.
Didn't you quote Freddie got fingered? Freddie got fingers.
Freddie got fingers.
We can't say that.
No.
You're going to get me to say the F word on a podcast?
Yeah. That was it.
Yeah.
What was the scene again, though? Just say the scene.
The scene is when they're doing the mini ramp.
The ramp.
And then he goes and he falls on the ground and breaks his leg. And then the dad opens the door. He's like, well, you two, quit making so fucking much noise. And I've loved that scene forever. Yeah. And so, like, when
we've said faggots on the show before, by the way.
Okay,
we've had Andrew saying here.
Right.
Mauricio is not afraid of saying it.
Okay, so I just think because people tend to think that I do say these things all the time, which I do.
Yeah. Of
so
course.
I just wanted to like make a false version of myself for posterity on a podcast where people are like, actually, he's a lot more thoughtful than he appears in person or any other time. I just wanted there to be like a little record where people would be like, oh, okay, so he's just not a raving lunatic.
But we have to get to the story, though, because we're almost out of time.
Okay.
Oh, man, I wrote down things here that we did not get to.
Yeah, we were focusing on this major issue, because I think because like you're having a daughter in the fall, October.
Yeah, and I was slightly panicking before, but now I'm full on losing it.
Yeah.
This 1.5 hours.
Well, it's nice because like you're in a good situation because you've lost a bit of your selfishness beforehand. So like one of the things, like if you like me, like if you go out and you drink with your friends too much or something like that, it's such a selfish act that if you're doing it while your wife's pregnant, it does leave a little bit of the stress off of thinking about the fact you're going to be a father because you're always just in trouble for being an asshole. Right. So then you're like, oh, this wasn't too bad. Like now I'm not an asshole, right? So like it's such a narcissistic way to deal with a problem. Yeah. But like because you guys are both like you guys took care of your shit and you're like healthy and you're like okay, now everything you do is just on you.
Yeah.
So then, like, if you're worried about your daughter, you can't be like, well, I'll just get drunk and make that my worry. You have to just be like, no, I'm just worried about my daughter and I'll have to figure it out.
Yeah.
So
that's something you don't feel until the baby comes.
Yeah. Like, you feel nervous. Like, I think you do feel it, like what I'm saying. He feels it now. I didn't feel it as much because I was worried about, like, so many other selfish things at the time. Like, oh, I can never go out anymore with my friends.
Yeah.
Well, like earlier, before we started this podcast, I was, like, my main fear was creating too many daddy issues, right? Yeah. Now I'm afraid I won't create enough.
Yeah. Gonna raise a pussy.
Because that's the thing, is that even though it's funny to make it extreme, I am being very serious. That there is this thing where, like, no, honey, it's okay, you're sore, blah, 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 or yeah, that's too much, or blah, blah, blah. That instinct is there, and mothers are really good at it, and fathers are too, because it's hard. It's not easy to disrupt this feeling, because the first thing you do, even with my stepsons, when they're a little bit uncomfortable or something, even though I'd never tell them, because then they would just act like pussies all the time, I get like, oh, no, I don't want this to be, and I can feel that I want to protect them a bit, but I don't always, and I always let them kind of like push themselves a little bit further. Like, I went for a 2.6 kilometer run with my stepson, and he complained the entire first 1.3 kilometers, because that's the length of the loop around Clamberton. And so, like, we're going around the loop, and he's doing awful, and I was just like, no, you're not quitting, and we're not stopping. I wanted to stop. I hadn't run that far in, like, fucking years. And so I was just like, but then there was part of me that, no, we're going to do, and he's like, and then as we got, like, because you go up the hill and you're going back down a little bit and it goes like this or whatever. And as we started coming downhill to the second lap, he was like, are we doing this again? I'm like, do you want to? He's like, yeah, let's do this again. And then by the end of it, he was like, this is great that I did this. I never thought I would be able to do this. And I was like, yeah, it's easy. And then he turns around and I throw up and I'm like, but that's what I mean is that it's not easy to be what I'm talking about. It's not just being like an asshole. Did it turn off?
No.
Okay. But yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's not about just being like, no, fuck you, kid. Like, because part of it will be that always. There'll be this tension because when there's two people, the needs of the couple, the needs of the individual, and then the needs of each individual and the family get all muddled up. And it's good to have more of this because then you learn more boundaries. Because if it was just me and if my kids and my wife died in an acid accident because like a truck fell over while we were driving, and then like somehow their bodies made a cocoon around me that protected me from the acid, but I had to live off their flesh for a few hours while the hospital dug me out. Like if that happened, and my daughter was safely with her grandparents or whatever, and I had to raise her on my own.
This is oddly specific, by the way.
Yeah.
But no, I actually kind of like I like starting specific stories and then just seeing where my mind takes it. That was a little improv I was doing there. I was like, how is she going to die? And I was like, because I was going to say.
And you did tell me the other day that you just bought a truck full of acid.
Oh.
But, no, that's not. It's not that type of acid. I'm trying to have a spiritual journey to understand fatherhood. I'm having an after party with some friends. And
they're all great dads.
It's the great dads after party. We call it Daddy Too Good.
Everybody brings photos, albums.
But no, like if it was just me and her, I'd have a worry that it would be like if it was just me and my stepsons or something. Because I'm like if I was just taking like for some reason I was left with them and something happened, which happens, I would be a lot softer, and there would be a thing where they would just get like. I would do more for them in do more for them in the immediate kind of like instant gratification sense, even though that's the thing that you want to try and back away from, because the hard stuff in life, which you want to help with, you feel so much less control, but you can pick out socks for people and stuff like that and make their life easier. That's the easy stuff, but it's harder to like focus on thinking about them doing the big stuff, and by giving them the skills by pulling back on these certain niceties. Like, no, do this on your own. Oh, I'd like you to learn how to do this. Once a week, because you're 12, you have to cook dinner, and then you also have to clean the dishes. I used to do that. I'd make spaghettis on Mondays because my mom had a meeting, my father was out of town, and my sister was just there. So I had to learn how to make spaghetti.
Right.
And so that's something like those are the things that do more for you than like the comfort. Knowing the comfort makes it so you know how to comfort other people, but knowing the discomfort knows how important it is for you to do things for yourself.
There has to be a balance there.
And that's what I think. That's what I'm talking about when I say you're the disruptor. You're the person who has to go like, I know she's cute, but she's going to have to learn how to change her own fucking diaper. No. This is ridiculous. I'm not getting up.
All right, let's get to the story now because we don't have a lot of time.
Okay, but I like this is like I've done sets like this where I'm meaning to finish a joke and then you go like for an hour.
I've seen them.
Yeah.
I've seen them.
And then you finally get to the end and they're like, oh, that's it? And they're like, wow, there's a fucking huge build-up. I really hope Hilaire Belloc lives up to his grand name. So Goldefin Horn, who was cursed with the sin of pride and became a bootblack. Goldefin Horn was I almost said nobly, and then I tried to correct it. Okay. Goldefin Horn was nobly born, and he held the human race in scorn, and he lived with all his sisters where his father lived in Berkeley Square. And oh, the lad was deadly proud, he never shook your hand or bowed, but merely smirked and nodded. Thus, how perfectly ridiculous. Alas, that such affected tricks should flourish in a child of 6, for such was young Goldefin's age. Just then the court required a page, whereat the Lord High Chamberlain, the kindest and the best of men, he went good-naturedly and took a perfectly enormous book called People Qualified to Be Attendant to His Majesty, and murmured as he scanned the list to see that no one should be missed. There's to see that no one should be missed. There's William Coutts, who's got the flu, and Billy Higgs would never do, and Guy de Vere is far too young, and wasn't De Antante's father hung? They show like a guy who hung. And as for Alexander Byng, I think I know the kind of thing. A churchman cleanly, nobly born, come. Okay. Let us say Goldefin Horn? But hardly had he said the word when murmurs of dissent were heard. The king of Iceland's eldest son said, "Thank you, I am taking none." The aged Duchess of Athlone remarked in her subacid tone, "I doubt if he is what we need." But with the bishops all agreed, and even Lady Mary Flood, so kind and so kind and so really good, said no, he wouldn't do it all. He'd make us feel all too small. The Chamberlain said, well, 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 no doubt you're right, one can tell. He took his gold and diamond pen and scratched Goldefin out again. So now Goldefin is the boy who blacks the boots at the Savoy. So this is a story of a kid who was a jerk, and then when he could have got a job where they're going to select him, they're like, no, that guy's an asshole to everybody. So now he polishes boots at the Savoy. Now, if you told this story today, if it was rewritten today, it would be like, oh man, polishing boots at the Savoy is just as good as working for the king. You don't have to feel bad.
It has its merits.
It has its merits.
Someone has to do it.
You're not an asshole.
Yeah.
You just,
you're a vital cog in the machine.
You just have what's it called? What's the word called for like when you date a girl and she threatens to kill herself if you leave her?
Huh?
What's that? It's like not.
There's a word for it.
Yeah.
Abusive?
No, it's not antisocial personality disorder. There's like bipolar and what is that? Something personality. Something
split.
But borderline personality disorder. Like that's how you would describe this kid today. You'd be like, that kid has borderline personality disorder, and it's nice that he found something where he gets to interact with people like polishing boots. Yeah. But the whole story is to tell kids like
he's a fucking loser.
Like there is a thing about being like selfish that you have to tell kids because of course they're going to be selfish because their whole life they're just catered to.
Yeah. And
then eventually you have to be like being selfish is okay, but you have to treat other people like they're selfish too.
Yeah.
And that's hard. And so that's what these stories are for. We should do one more.
Should we?
Yeah. That one was
okay. I don't think anybody has the studio booked. Just give me a second. I'm going to turn on the computer.
Are both cameras turned on?
They don't have any stories here about people who overrun time, so we're not going to have any major punishments happen.
I'm going to pick up my daughter.
Yeah, but you don't have to show up on time. Make her wait a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to make it uneasy. You can't be like, oh, he always shows up on time, so, and then she'll get too soft. Now you got to be like, I don't know when he's coming, but I know he will come. But I have to learn to just be. I gotta learn how to relax here. Okay, I want to read this lying and being burnt to death.
Just want to turn it on.
These are good to have, though, too. Like, in case people have kids at home, they can just edit out the little part of the podcast where I'm reading, and they can play it for their kids. That's what I'm hoping. I start becoming like a children's entertainer.
All right, let's do one more.
Yeah. Okay, ready? Matilda, who told lies and was burned to death. Matilda told such dreadful lies, it made one gasp and stretch one's eyes. Her aunt, who, from the earliest youth, had kept a strict regard for truth, attempted to believe Matilda. The effort very nearly killed her, and would have done so had not she discovered this infirmity. For once towards the close of day, Matilda growing tired of play, and finding she was left alone, went tiptoe to the telephone, and summoned the immediate aid of London's noble fire brigade. Within an hour the gallant band were pouring in on every hand, from Putney, Hackney Downs, and Bow, with courage high and hearts aglow. They galloped roaring through the town. Matilda's house is burning down.